Hi and welcome everybody here at the LA Relief Network, and this is a summary of this event, so some key takeaways for you to consider. First of all, I want to thank the organizers. Of course, they did an amazing job. There are way more people that showed up than expected, and it was pretty crowded, but it's amazing that they provided food. They had people to show equipment, and they had two experts from the insurance companies as well as other experts who gave their expertise at this event. And you might ask, what are the key takeaways, or you want to watch the full video? You don't have to, after just giving you a couple of bullet points that you can take from here. Well, let me first of all tell you, recently I visited friends. They are in south of Alhambra and actually close to LA already, and they had actually their outdoor patio and stuff was completely black, and they had to clean it. And during that process, one of my friends got actually rashes on her skin, and so that just shows you how far it travels. And I think we talk about at least 15 miles or so in distance from the fire places. So it can go pretty far. And also, what you should notice is that once things are burned in a household, you have typically things stored, from cleaners to paint to other kinds of chemical, acetone, maybe cleaners, nail polishers, and the materials that were used in houses before the 70s, when there were bans for lead and asbestos, were just built everywhere. They were used in roofs, they were used in puppy ceilings, and they were used actually in wallboards and all kinds of things. So this is very unfortunate, because a lot of these houses have kind of old substance, and all that stuff was kind of like burnt down, released, and transported through the air in form of ashes. It also goes up in the atmosphere, and some things are gases, some are lighter than air. So you can just imagine, if something's lighter than air, it stays up there for a long time, and eventually the wind blows it away, or it comes down if it just compounds with other things. So it's really a mess, I have to say, and it takes probably months to get really some form of release from all that. And it's expected to be worse because the cleaning process right now is has not basically even started, and they're just evaluating still some of the toxins. They're trying to get some of the measurements in place, and they are also working on that. And there was another event happened yesterday from Caltech, where they stated, of course, the worst part will be when they started the cleaning process. That's where everybody lifts up boards, removes stuff, and that's where if there's wind and stuff, then transport that further in the air. So that's something you want to be aware of, and just be precautious about that. And it's an ongoing thing, so it's definitely something chronic, so we have to live with for the next years, I would say, at least realistically 1 to 2 years from what other experts say, and even the cleaning process, as stated from government officials, will be about 18 months. So that includes evaluating the experts, sending out the right people, the cleanup of the debris, and all this stuff. So this is kind of a long process. So I want to make sure that you protect yourself and also wear masks. Now, it's been actually, there are studies out there, the KN95 masks or 100 masks, they are the best you can get for the price and availability. So make sure you have a lot of them, and you use them, especially when you walk outdoors. Those particles are so small, you don't see them, they're invisible, and especially if they're winds, you can guess that they're transported from could be anywhere. In regards to the event and what are the takeaways from there, it's pretty much that there are special people that actually work for insurance companies, and they've been called once insurance has actually cleared and give green light that your place is ready for cleanup, and the insurance covered that, and then these people come in. And they at the event explained their process, how they're going to do it. So basically they just wrap everything, they pack everything, and just do cleaning, mostly not at the property or not in the house. They just take everything out and just get it cleaned out at other places. So that's something what a lot of you might not be able to do, especially if you're uninsured or you have you cannot afford, or the insurance turned you down. You have to kind of find a way to do it yourself. And at the event, they also explained a couple of tools that are useful. For example, a chem sponge, which looks like a regular sponge, but it feels a little colder, and it has some properties that are very beneficial for removing ashes and things that are actually just have accumulated from the wildfire, especially if you live next door. But as I said, it can go miles away. You have the highest amount of particles, and they also measured most dangerous parts stated by Caltech at the window area. So the outdoor window area is something that's highly affected, and of course we all want to open an air out sometimes and stuff like that, which is not recommended, but understandably some people want to get air inside, so you should use those chem sponges actually to remove those things. In addition, that the event also stated that there are especially vacuum cleaners, HEPA vacuum cleaners, so make sure you have one. For example, the Dyson don't have it, they use a different technology, but if you have a Miele, for example, you can actually buy a HEPA filters for Miele vacuum cleaners. I checked it out. By default, they don't have it installed, so when you buy a new one, you don't have it, but you can order this. They circulate around for like $10 if they are not original, and if you buy original Miele, they go up to $50, which I think it's very pricey. So, but definitely, if you have an opportunity and if you consider buying one, you can do that and use a HEPA vacuum cleaner. And now they event also offered that they will lend certain gear and equipment. I'm not sure exactly if they also have HEPA vacuum cleaners to lend out, but definitely check out the website and resources for that. That's probably very useful for some. But it's good to have a vacuum cleaner, I think. Especially think about this is going to be like a 2-year thing that's now coming in front of us, and it's good to have something. And this will circulate around because, as I said, once they move a board up with hatch particles, it will be transported in the air and it can go miles away from its origin. So having a good vacuum cleaner with a HEPA filter and getting a HEPA filter installed is a great thing. Now, what else was stated in regards to items in your household? It started from furnitures, books, electronics, and stuff like that. As I said, the insurance companies and the people presenting the event stated that they usually take everything out and they have it cleaned outside. So if you're not able to do that, I personally would highly recommend also if you have a wind-still day, so if there's not a lot of wind outside, just to take those things where you feel they're highly affected and bring them outside, not right in front of your door. I would recommend if you have some part away and you don't disturb anybody or a neighbor that's maybe affected by this. Find a place that you feel is better to do that and safe, and then just start this process of at least dusting it off. And while you do that, I think it's important to notice that you should wear a PPE kit. That was also stated at the event. And actually last week at the Altadena Town Council, Catherine Barger and other people stated that they have actually PPE kits. Unfortunately, not a lot of people know where to get them. They ran out last week. Actually, the event was on Tuesday and they ran out on Saturday, 2 days before. So it's kind of hard to get a hold of them. They consist usually of mask, eye protection, mouth protection, and some white things you can pull over your clothes, which is recommended if you experience and you have a lot of things that have high dust. So this is something else to consider. Also contact the organization. They might have those equipment. I've heard they have actually even purchased them and not just relying on what the government provides. But it's definitely good to have them. And what you want to make sure, and this is from personal experience, I want to recommend to everybody here in this video is, because I was actually 10 years ago, I had a heavy metal poisoning. And it was terrible. It took me 2 years, 6 hospitals, and I don't know, 100 pages of blood tests and lab work to determine even what's wrong. And then I had to find solutions, because not everything is actually covered by insurance. Not everything is actually resolved by Western medicine, and it was a hassle and it was a pain. I can just tell you that. So you want to avoid getting those particles in your system and on your skin at all costs. And that's why you need the protection. Problem is the most affected areas cause of your nasal and the mouth area. Don't underestimate the ears as well, and of course body parts, so skin parts. That's why some people develop rashes or things like that. Problem about asbestos really is that these things actually sets in the lung, and these particles are so small that you can't get them out, that the body can't heal itself by that. So it take up to, I think, 10 years, what some universities and research stated, that this can cause harm. So you want to be aware of that. Don't let them get in your system at first place. So I think the foremost important thing here to know is just make sure you protect your mouth, your nose, and especially these areas, because this is something, if that gets in, it's irreversible. Okay, so that's it's a very important thing. And the second part is, whenever you do dust those things and stuff like that, make sure you're not running out in shorts and you're not having like everything just like you would be having on the beach or somewhere. That's not a good idea. Just make sure you protect your skin. Some of those substances that were out there are just like chemicals that are also part and became particles, and some are flying around, and those things, yeah, can cause rashes, they can cause damage, which is the next point. You want to protect your eyes, because these particles can also get in your eyes, and they can not just burn on your skin, they can also cause damage to your eyes. And that's also something you want to protect, especially if you start up the cleaning process. It's a very important thing. So I think it's common sense. So protect all your body parts, protect especially your mouth, nose, ears, and get eye protection, especially if you have something to dust off. Be also aware that even things don't look like they have a lot of ashes, and things they accumulate. That's a natural thing. Especially we are in LA County, in this area. You notice even before the fire, a lot of particles, and after 1 week you have a lot of black dust and stuff in the air. There's a lot of heavy metal also in bigger cities like LA County areas and stuff like that already in place. So without even talking about the fire, so you want to make sure you don't make it worse and don't expose more than that's really necessary. So back to the event, what else is important to mention? I think it is very hard, and that's what was stated yesterday also at Caltech and the event, to measure those things, because first of all, they're invisible. The measurements are quite expensive. There are, however, some toolkits that you can get. Amazon, for example, sells lead kind of toolkits. They're like having packages for like $20 or something like that. I'm not sure how reliable they are. You can try them out. 10-20 bucks is not a big investment, I would say, but what is sure, and that is something actually scientifically also circling around, that this is a long thing that's going on now, and the cleaning process hasn't even started. So you can expect to get worse once this is started and winds come up, and they will. So there will be better days and worse days. So that's something I just want to make you aware. There are studies in the indoor air quality when you use air purifiers, especially with a HEPA filter and a carbon filter. An activated carbon filter is actually also recommended by some universities, that they reduce and improve the air quality dramatically, especially if you had the windows open during the fire, you were evacuated, and a lot of these substances came into your house some way. But not just that, think about your doors and things. They, at the bottom of the door, they have usually holes, and that's a natural thing. Not everyone has perfect sealing. Some people have not just at the doors, they have like windows and all other ways to get into the house. Think about duct vents, think about your stuff. It has usually ventilation system on top, the chimney area, the heater area. So there's a lot of things that is open, and you know, trust me, most houses and most places don't even have nets and filters or anything basic that you keep the rats away from them. So not even to think about something more advanced. So this is a personal experience. Our apartment we're renting, they don't have that, and we had some rat experience and stuff because it's just not covered, and for a lot of the landlords it costs too much to cover that. So just be aware of that. You have holes basically everywhere and air openings that actually you should at least try best to be aware and be cautious about it. So using air purifiers, carbon and HEPA filters have proven in studies to work effectively. What is there to say, however, and that's something that's often unmentioned, is that once you turn those off, it goes actually back to a situation what people could consider hazardous or not pleasant or just like bad. Just Let's name it like that. So that means when we talk about that, and you would expect an air cleaner just gets rid of the problem, it really just compensates for the ongoing air pollution and the hazardous things circling around, and it can compensate for that. You have to keep it running all the time. Okay, just be aware of that. And as I said, this will be a long process, so just have them running for the next 2 years. Just be aware of that. Electrical bill might go up, but this is I think a very important thing that was not mentioned at the event, but there are studies about that, and it's important to know that what's proven is if you turn them off, the air gets bad. That means there is constant circulation around. That means that some things are have not just gone back to normal, and they will not for a long time. Yeah, what else is there to say? Some people mentioned you can do testing. There are companies who take samples, usually 5-6 samples of different areas. They come and they send them in a lab. There are different machines you can test that, and that gives you actually a state, and that's also something you should be aware of, momentum of special niches, especially as I mentioned the windows in these areas. If there was a lot of things coming at that point of measurement in either inside or outside next to that, but that doesn't guarantee you that the wind that may come up next week doesn't blow more of that stuff, or not more of the stuff comes in. That's why it's so important to make sure you have everything sealed, you have everything closed, and really, if you can't just have the windows closed and you need to have them open, just have them for a short amount of time. Do that when you don't have winds going around, and be cautious about that. And as I said, seal everything as best as you can. So that's also parts that came up, and some additional stuff that I collected from Caltech events and other universities and scientists to be aware of. At the event, it was also addressed how to tackle close, bad, and other things. As I said, books and stuff like that. As I said, if you can do it outside, protect yourself first, and chem sponges and things like that. HEPA vacuums. The other thing is that I think we should also use common sense to think a little bit about it. When you had the windows open and you had to be evacuated, you can imagine that probably a lot of particles were gone in all directions. If your things were closed, there's still amount that came through some of those holes, as I mentioned. So I think most important parts are always those that can have a contact to your body, to your lungs, or to those areas, as I mentioned, eyes and affected things. So since we need time to sleep, and the average sleep is, I don't know, between 6 and 8 hours a day, we spend time in the bed. We should first of all be aware of that. So I hope in the meantime you already got rid of these sheets and covers and everything you had. And the question that also came up at the event about the mattresses. This was something like there was not a clear answer that was given, something recommended. I would say if you have taken care of the sheets and you've done the covers and stuff like that, that's a very, very important step. That's the first step, actually, I would suggest. If you have a HEPA vacuum, and if you do that and protect the closing and clean that out, you don't want to probably carry out the mattress outdoors. So you want to have to do that indoors, but with, as I say, protection. That's, I think, another way you can actually reduce. And we talk about really reductions, yeah? There's no guarantee you get things 100 off. Not even if the air purifier is running all the time. So just be clear about that. And I think that you have done a huge amount of cleaning, so to speak, for the bad place. Now, if you still feel not safe, or you really, first of all, if you have the money and budget to buy a new mattress and you feel much better, go and do it. But also expect that there will be more winds coming in, there will be more exposure, and this eventually will also have the same problems. So it's probably really a better idea to have a ongoing cleaning and ensuring you remove sheets and stuff like that. What I really suggest is to be also aware and get a little more cautious about is how does your skin react to certain things that you use. As I mentioned, the bed, the mattresses, or the couch. This is probably places where you sit a lot, and even the tables that you use a lot and you put your hands on and stuff like that. So this is something you can notice. You can see rashes, you can red dots or something similar to that. So if you have that, definitely there is something that's not good for you, and you should just instantly be aware of that and clean that off. So that's I think is goes back always to the same as I mentioned before. Protect your body as best as you can, with the knowledge that there is stuff in your place, and there will be more stuff coming. I think that's what it is. Now, the other part is that was only partly mentioned at the event is, of course, when these particles came in and you had a stack of clothes, the ones that will be affected is the ones at the very front or at the very top. That's where usually the dust collects first. We know this from stuff if you collect stuff at home. That's the same principle there. As I said, these things are invisible, so you want to be aware of that and might not just wear them right away when you think like, oh, this is clean. This is probably better to actually put and get them clean. Which brings a next thing that was not completely discussed at the event, but something that was mentioned, since the water quality in Altadena is bad, and even in Pasadena, there's a map of, I think, most of the entire Pasadena area is affected by that. There's not a lot of transparency right now what's going on with the water levels. But why is the water important for the cleaning? Well, it is if you want to wash your clothes. How are you going to do that if you have contaminated water that also has lead or some other stuff in there? That creates, I think, something hasn't been talked at the event, but it is something concerning you should be aware of. And I was thinking of a solution, and the only way it really comes to my mind is that you have to go to a place where the water is not contaminated. That means like 10, 20 miles down, and hope that they have a different filtering system where they're not affected and connected with the same pipes and the same system in there. That might reduce your chances, but it's hard, as I said, to measure those things. And yeah, that's probably I see this as a bigger problem of this whole disaster, because it's really difficult. We can't fill in water bottles in our washing machines, nor we can do that in our dishwashers, and eventually we can do this while cleaning dishes in the sink, but it turned out not to be very practical. Personally, what I do about these things, I actually use the regular water to clean the dishes. But when I use the dishes, I use a bottle of water before I use it, and I use some paper towel to wash it off again. So I kind of like have a two-step process involved to make sure at least reduce as much as I can exposure and still use the water given. By the way, water analysis, I have gotten into that before the fire, and doctors will tell you that too. Water in our systems is never that clean, even you have filters, and doctors don't even recommend it, especially if you have eye issues or stuff like that. So it's known to have stuff inside already, so before the fire. So now it's gotten worse. Just be aware of that. So I think the other questions, of course, are if you brush your teeth with the water, or how do you wash your or shower, stuff like that. For showers, there is actually also filters with carbon and other kind of methods. Usually they're different kind of stones and things that are known to filter out stuff. You should change that, of course, if you have those things, and that's definitely something. It's usually you screw that on top before the water comes out. There's a filter, something that is recommended as well. And for, as I said, for the sink and stuff, if you have a filter system, just be aware you might have replaced it more often, or consider that doing that. It's, as I say, an ongoing stuff, and same for the filters that you just implement. It's better, I would suggest, to have a filter. Clear measurements are hard to make, as I said, and they're very costly, but you can expect a long time exposure to those things. So the more you reduce, the better it is. Speaking next about something that the event also offered, they have materials and tools available, as I say, for lending and for other things. You should check out their resources. They were talking about in the beginning, but not getting so much into what exactly there is. I hope they have a list of stuff that you can either lend or they give away. It's very generous of them. I have to say, this is really awesome. So please consider that too. What else is there that we haven't talked about is, yeah, let's talk about items that don't cost a lot, and they might be very difficult to clean. What could that be? I give you an example, like some people have flowers, fake flowers even, or the plastic flowers, or whatever call them, or some decoration material, I don't know. That is just like terrible to clean. And what should you do with that? I personally would really recommend you just get rid of that, because it costs a few dollars. You can replace it, and just use gloves and put that in a bag. Just make sure it's air sealed, and then get rid of that. The event did not specifically mention how to trash that. The insurance people that talked about it, I think they have special places to put that. It was not gotten so much into details. I can imagine that that could cause troubles when you have too much hazardous materials in a regular trash can, and either landlord or the house owner or someone, if there's someone inspecting, could get trouble. So theoretically, actually, there should be, or probably there are regulations about where and how to trash it. You know, when you want to recycle a battery or some other stuff, you have to go and drive around to places, and it can be quite annoying. Sometimes I have to say I've experienced that myself, especially when they send you away just to recycle a battery or something like that. I've experienced that in the past. But yeah, this is totally up to you. Just be aware of that, but make sure at least when you do actually get rid of stuff, this is sealed, and so basically make a strong knot, or you have some sealed air sealed bags or something like that to make sure that this doesn't get any more exposure out there. So what else is important? I think there were quite a few things that were not mentioned in the event, but a lot of them were. Yeah, now we were talking about things that have not a lot of value. So what about things that have a lot of value? And as I mentioned already, the tools to clean that were brought up at the event. The sealing, yeah. Now something else that I want to bring up, because I was personally affected by heavy metal poisoning, and a little bit about basics of our immune system and our body, and I think something to understand. The body is an amazing, you could call it machine or amazing wonder or God's creation, whatever you prefer. Anyways, it can do fantastic things, and it can detox certain things. However, as I mentioned, asbestos and stuff are so small particles that they get in the lungs, and they take years to cause really problems, and then they do, and it's irreversible. So you want to protect yourself from that. And other things like lead and stuff like that, we're all exposed to heavy metals. As I said, it's just the dosage, as stated, can cause the toxins. So that can cause really damage or even medical conditions. Life-threatening medical conditions. So you should be aware of that. That's why protection is so important. And even it's invisible, that makes it more dangerous, because, as I say, we cannot exactly know what's going on, and testing and continuous testing, as I say, would be required, which is, yeah, just do one testing can be pricey. So just imagine you do this every, I don't know, 3 times a day. That's not possible. So you want to protect it. However, you can do a couple of things that are health-wise are recommended. There is actually on the website that we have, the LA Relief Network, a list of things that you can consider. These are some vitamins and some things that have proven actually by doctors and healers to benefit the immune system. There are scientific studies for some of those things. I don't know, like vitamin C and things like that, that help the body actually to deal better and work more efficient for, detoxing and the immune system in general. So that's, I think, something to consider. I would definitely suggest that, especially if you're more concerned or you already have symptoms, just to boost your immune system and strength. But that does not mean that you should not protect yourself anymore and just run around like in shorts without any protection. So make sure you have that protection. So that's something you can check out. And the other thing is, besides the air purifiers with HEPA and carbon filters, there is also a study done by NASA a couple of years ago that there are plants out there, I think a spider plant and some other plants that have proven to really reduce and actually convert and it's the amazing thing that plants can do, that a lot of the toxical substances for humans and for systems and actually improve the air quality in a different way than an air purifier would do that. So kind of, and that's something I recommend you to just look into getting those plans, and I think just add some additional way of naturals in your house that can help with the process of giving you better oxygen air and the removal of toxic stuff. So that's, I think, also something that's not been mentioned at the event, but I personally suggest that. We do have in our apartment some spider plants and some others, so it's definitely something I would recommend, and plants, I believe, if they especially have healing and protective elements, you should definitely have some of those in your place. Yeah, what else is there to mention from the event? Specifically, not much more that I can think of that is immediate right now. So I would suggest check out the website resources they have. Check out also our website, la.net.co, for our LA Relief Network. And if you have any further questions, you can also contact me personally. I try to respond. Allow me a bit of time. Sometimes I get more messages. And yeah, if you have already been affected health-wise, I just received some mails from people with children who have autoimmune diseases or already issues, and they're very concerned about it. I think all the things that I mentioned are a form of essence that you should consider implementing and protecting yourself in resolving or healing autoimmune diseases. I think I'm not a doctor, so let's be clear. I had some autoimmune diseases. I still have some, and I was actually in because of my metal poisoning, heavy metal poisoning. I was struggling for 2 years, so I can definitely say a diet, nutrition, vitamins, and supplements are good. It also needs some testing what is good for you. Consult a doctor about the medical conditions. They can do lab testing. They can show you what's at least from the blood work and from the tests they do, what's going on. For a lot of stuff, since it's autoimmune, there's not 100% cure and healing about that stuff, but from scientific point of view, what a lot of people actually find out, that there's substances somehow stuck in our body, in our system, and stuff like that, that let the body believe to attack itself, and it's still an area that needs to be explored. I personally believe, and that's how I actually resolved my heavy metal poisoning. I had the fluoride poisoning, and that's a very nasty thing because it actually sets those fluoride molecules with the enzyme system. It messes up with this, and that means you can't digest anymore, you can't eat anymore, and you get cramps and a lot of pain, fibromyalgia, and you get all kinds of other very painful, very terrible things when these things get in your system and just interfere with your metabolism, with your digestion, with your enzyme systems and stuff like that. And as I said, the way that I got rid of that was with a massive detox with many substances over a long time. You could also call it a chemotherapy almost, because some of that was like really nasty and really hard. And it took me about 2 years to see a betterment, with a lot of struggle and unknowns and many of doctors. So in other words, I don't wish anybody the same struggle and pain that I had. I ended up finding the oncology department because some values were just bad. They thought I have some form of cancer and stuff like that. And then I had some special other testings for rare DNA diseases. But it finally turned out that it was actually fluoride poisoning, which is also something, when you call a hotline, there's a hotline for that. They will not tell you anything. They will not give you any cure advice. They will basically just like they will ask you basically what to do. So this is the same, the Western stuff, and that is the same problem that you experience with other heavy metal poisoning and right now asbestos and lead and that stuff. This is, as I say, irreversible. So be aware of that. Yeah, the phone is ringing, so I think that's the most important I want to share from the event and my personal add-ons to that. please contact me if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to help. And yeah, if you have medical conditions, contact your doctors. I'm not a doctor, and I'm happy to share updates, especially also the Caltech event that happened yesterday. I included some of that summary also in this video, but they went into more details, what they found and what amounts, but basically everything they said is just in this video, so you don't miss out much if you haven't seen that one. And thank you for taking the time, and wish you well, and stay tuned. Goodbye.